welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric and Countdown to Christmas 2021. Today I'm going to talk about mini knitted items for ornaments. I'm also going to include a few crocheted items because while later on in the month I'm going to share an entire set day of discussion of crochet critters for ornaments, I do have some crochet items that I felt fit a little bit better with my mini knits that I wanted to share today. So let's just go ahead and dive in and show you the very first mini knitted ornament that I did a number of years ago out of some hand spun. It's a little mini mitten. And I thought, oh, that is just too much fun and I will need to make a bunch of them. But other things got in the way, and this was the only mitten I had. But it went on my little tiny tree out in the other room. At the beginning of these videos and at the end you see my big tree and my small tree. This is the new tree that I've just added this year for this space. But it goes on my other little tree, which has always been where we put some of the more delicate ornaments and some of the handmade items. So my little mitt was all alone in its tiny little knitted world until this year, when I got it into my mind that this would be a fabulous way to use up those little leftover balls of yarn that we get when we make projects. So these guys are made with leftovers from some shawl projects that I had. And I just knit these two little ones up. And there you have it. And the wonderful thing about these is you don't really have to worry about weaving in your ends very much because you just shove them inside and it helps give them some body. So my little knitted mittens for Christmas. So I will, I'm sure I'll show photos because on the camera that we're looking at right now, they're showing blue, but these puppies are lavender. Well, not lavender. I think they're more of a violet. That's the color. They're violet. I like my purples. So they actually match my scarf. And both of them are violet, not blue. But that's the joys of cameras. And from what depending on how people are watching this, who knows what color it shows up on, because I know different computer screens, different phones can all be a little different. So it's pretty no matter what the color is that it comes up with. But just know that if it shows up blue, it's most likely, in my world, purple. So in the thought of having mini mittens, you would of course then need a mini color work. Let me see, I'm trying to remember a mini color work sweater. Because why wouldn't we need a mini color work sweater? And I know there are people who make a ton of these things, and there are wonderful patterns on places like Ravelry where you can go and you can get a pattern in order to make something like this. I just was whipping them up from the top of my head, and that's what was really fun with these, is when you're not using a pattern, you kind of hope that they actually match. And I managed to do that. But my daughter pointed out to me the scale was a little different. But fortunately, these are not for some sort of weird elf that have gigantic, hands and a tiny little body. It's just using up the remnant balls of yarn that I had. So I love this little mini sweater with some color work. It was definitely a fun project. And I am just so really pleased that my hands every so often feel good enough that I can do something that size. It's just so much fun. So there's that. And you can't have a colorwork sweater without having a colorwork hat. And I think I got the scale fairly close between these guys. For the imaginary little finger puppet guy, they're really well decorated, well suited for the winter time. They're going to be warm and snuggly, and look at the giant pom-pom. It's almost as big as that. So it's something to have fun with, just using up the little leftover bits it can sometimes just be fun. This is all hand spun. And so it's hand spun. The pom-pom is rambouillet. It's actually some rambouillet that I had spun for a project. And the base of the sweater is, I believe it is, now I've drawn a blank. Coriadel Lincoln. That's what it is. It's some Coriadel Lincoln that fleece that I bought years ago. I think the very first time I went to the Estes Park flea market. Where's my brain? The Estes Park wool market. The very first time I went to the Estes Park wool market, I picked up beautiful fleece of cross between Coriadel and Lincoln. It had luster and shine, but was soft to the touch. And I wept a little when I finished that fleece off because it was so easy to spin. It was a lovely spin, and I learned to make the triangular knitted shawls with that, and I was very impatient and I didn't know how it was really supposed to work, so I made it my first attempt. I made it much too it's only half the size I really wanted it. So after years of having two small shawls, we took them apart and I made a much nicer, larger shawl that I now use all the time. And it's really fun when you undo a larger project that you've knit and that's been in the knit for a while, because it's all crinkly and curly. And I didn't take the time to put it on a nitty knotty and get rid, steam it to get, or wet it to get rid of the the kinky curls. So I just knit it up with the kinky curls, and it has a lot of body and texture because of it. But knitting with kinky curly yarn when it's this tiny, well, that was a fun process. But I've almost used up all the scraps from that. So it's almost done. And so this one's not quite in the same scale. It's maybe a little bit more in the scale of these guys, but I had so much fun. If you've been watching my different episodes, you'll see a number of hats that I call my muffin top hats. And they're really simple, where you just do a ribbing band, and when you have enough of that, as soon as you are done, you do one round of knit, and then you do increases. You either increase every other stitch, you increase every 3 stitches, or increase every 4 stitches, depending on how big you want the muffin on top. And I love making those hats. And so I had to have a mini version of my muffin top hat. And so now you can see, it's really quite the cute hat. It's adorable on certain faces more so than others. My daughter looks fabulous in them. I would imagine that they look so wonderfully well on little kids. The tip with this, for it to be an ornament, you could put some stuffing inside, but what I did is I just cut a piece of cardstock, or a piece of cardboard even, but a piece of cardstock about the size of it, and I shoved that up in the top so it keeps its shape. If I was worried about little kids getting a hold of it, I might stuff it and put a little something to close off the bottom. These don't have any hanging yarn or any of that yet. This first one I did, if you can see, I have a little crocheted loop. I haven't decided. This one has a crocheted loop. I haven't decided with these guys if I want a crocheted loop or if I just want to use a tree hook that can go on and then be taken off every year. That may be what I end up doing, so that I can decide how I want to have them hang on the tree. So little wire hooks can, be put on there and then taken off. So I'm thinking that's might be what I do. I may end up putting them on my tree in here, or they'll probably go on the tree in the other room. But mini knits, I mean, seriously, what a fabulous way to use those itty bitty leftovers that we have with a lot of our projects, especially sock yarns and small fine fingering weight or lace weight yarns. It's just too much fun. And so yes, I have a collection of purple although it's showing up on the camera blue, I'm sure I'll have shown a photo to show them all together. A bunch of little violet and purple ornaments to go on my tree. So that's the mini knits that I wanted to share. And as I said, I will be doing a bunch more crochet ornaments in a later video. But I wanted to share these because they kind of make me think of the little mini knits. They are some that my daughter made a few years ago and some that she has made more recently. She made little apples out of my hand spun. And just little tiny apple leaf. She made some bigger ones, and then I said, well, why don't you scale it down? It was a pattern that she got from a pattern book. So she's made these little tiny apples, and they're just so much fun. And if you notice that the hand spun, like with most of the hand spun that I have, I will dye it when it's still in the lock form, and so it'll take on colors in a variety of different ways, and so it makes for just fun ornaments. So I love those are some of my favorites. And then this year, using she determined that she thought at first that this was cotton. It's acrylic yarns. I think it's some stuff we bought. It was on sale years ago from Hirschner's, and I bought it because she was doing a bunch of crochet, but she didn't get around to using it. Her great-grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was just well known for her doilies. And my daughter has done a little bit to try to learn some of the techniques. And this year she decided to revisit making snowflakes. And she has made some snowflakes. Now, when you make them out of cotton, they will take a starch quite well. And they'll keep their shape a little better. These are not cotton, and so they didn't take the starch very well. But that's the red one that she made, and the 3 white ones with, there's some metallic, let's see if I can, I don't know, it's probably not going to show up, but this is a white acrylic that has like an Angelina fiber, a metallic fiber going through. And I have to tell you, I was just really impressed. One of the things, when she made them, she was following the pattern. And initially, they said to make the pattern that she used, had it so that you made the loop at the top of one of the tips. And she and I looked at it and we're like, we're not sure we like that as much at the tip. So when she went to the red one, she decided that instead of just having it on the tip, she would do an extra tip, and then just add a crocheted. And we really prefer that style to the one where the picot is missing because it has the loop. So if I can find the pattern that she used for these, I'll try to have a link in the description below. If I can't find the pattern for these, I won't have them. I will tell you, though, that if you go to places like Ravelry or other sites like Ravelry, you'll find snowflake patterns. You can find, I am sure most pattern companies, probably the big pattern companies at some point or another have done snowflakes. But I know on Ravelry there is a group that is dedicated just to crocheted snowflakes. So the patterns are out there. Whether they are free or for purchase, I'm not sure. I just know that that's one that she had, that she decided to do, and they can be a lot of fun. So I wanted to share those with my tiny knits, because when I think of small crocheted projects, they kind of fit together. And then with those being shown in an upcoming episode, we'll be able to focus just on crocheted critters. As opposed to crocheted apple, ornament and crocheted snowflakes. So, I hope that has inspired you. I hope that you will find time today to unwind with some fiber and fabric. And I hope you're taking care of yourself and enjoying this holiday season. We will see you again tomorrow, I hope. And until then, blessings to you and happy holidays.